In times of joy, we must be thankful. Because life really have its ups and its downs. In times of disaster, we must be ready to get together and move racism out the way. And if you listen to this watch word from your lover, Black Stallion, tomorrow would be a better day.
99.9 WeFM.
Rise and shine. Let's get ready to take on the day. Activated Mornings on WeFM 99.9 is on now.
All right, so we are back for our another segment of our Activated Mornings program, and at this point, I'm flying solo for a little bit. All right, just to note that coming up at 8, we will be having an interview with Miss Nicole Martindale, and let me just get that full information for you so that I can tell you exactly what the topic is. All right, so we'll be having an interview with Miss Nicole Martindale, the SVG Teachers Union's first vice president. And the topic will be on the Teachers Union elections, the campaign, and the results. All right. So Miss Martindale will join us. Morning, Crystal. Yes, I see the message. It's okay. It's okay. All right. So let's jump right into our other topic at this time. And it's something else. Oh, you know what? Let me take some messages that I saw from before. In our previous conversation, someone mentioned when a person gets shot, they would like to think that the police will be guarding that person. They don't know if that has changed. All right. And I saw somebody else making a similar comment. Shouldn't be a case where when a person is shot that they are guarded by police. So I am not sure if that generally happens. So I think we may need to get some clarity from someone from the Royal St. Vincent and Grenadines Police Force with regards to that. All right. Let me see if there's anything else in relation to that previous topic. All right. So someone else is making mention of, yes, when I was home in December, I walked into the police station and no one asked me anything or searched me. I was going up to see the police commissioner, Colin John at the time. And again, no one asks the person anything. So, I think maybe this sort of speaks to the society in which we live in, where we're a little bit relaxed, we're a little bit calm, we're a little bit cool about everything. But given that times are changing, persons are now becoming a bit more brazen, a bit more bold. Should it be a case now where we have to think just in case of something happening? Should we probably, and as I already said, should we do preventative measures as opposed to reactive measures? Because if somebody comes into the hospital ward with a gunshot wound, chances are the person who shot them, their aim more than likely would have been to kill them, not necessarily just maim them, but to kill them. And given that they are stationed in a hospital, shouldn't they, in that case, then be protected by police? So again, we may have to get a response to those questions from someone from the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force, right? Moving on to another topic that I saw that was of interest. It's an article that was published by Asbert News on the 16th, and the headline reads, "Taximan robbed at gunpoint." And we have a call. Let me take this call quickly. Hi, caller. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Alicia.
Hi, and how are you?
Good to hear you this morning as an inspiration. And the kind of music you selected, you're right up my street, my dear.
All right.
But as an elderly statesman, let me say that. I make no apologies for saying that. I've been following events throughout my lifetime and what goes on or what would have happened in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And that's why I can speak boldly and authoritatively on a lot of different things. What happened there is no surprise to me. But how many of us are prepared? How many of us are prepared to be honest with ourselves or pretend, or we just intend to pretend that all what is going on here, the crimes, the criminal element here, how could we get some difference where that is concerned? But I just called because we have had a history. I have been in the hospital. I have been in the hospital for, after I came down with diabetes, my first experience. I spent 3 or 4 months there. And I tell you, when I realized how the hospital is used, abused, as a patient, I was making my observation, but you see, I always had a keen eye to see how how our country is being administered. And the security, there's no doubt that the security wants to be heightened, multiplied by how many times and so on, as relates to the current state of security at the hospital. I have seen it. One night I was as a patient in the hospital. There was a gun shooting outside. Next thing I saw, and the thing about me, I'm a late sleeper. I was awake when I see somebody creeping in with a gun, right? But then it happened to be the officer. And they saw that I was awake, and they asked me, you see anybody coming in? I said, Lord have his mercy. I heard the gunshots outside, which I think was happening close by. But these guys came in. You know how that could traumatize you? But it was late after midnight. People, the patients were sleeping, but I wasn't sleeping. So I just said I'll share that because, and I am aware, and there could always be breach of security sometimes, because I have experienced that even in Trinidad and Tobago. Went to a certain place, and when you're looking for security is not around. In a place like TNT, which has more murders than us well, they say we are at par now. Anyhow, I just want to make that input and to tell Vincentians, if they think we're living in a paradise, you're fooling yourself. Thank you. Have a good morning.
All right, Dave. Thank you for your contribution. All right. So, yeah, we do probably need to be a little bit more proactive and not be as relaxed. I know that people look at the Caribbean and SVG as a very relaxing place to be. I still am of that opinion, but in certain things, we have to think differently because the criminals are thinking differently. All right. So let's move on to the topic of a taximan robbed at gunpoint. And this is a story from Asbert News Network. And it's a short article, but I'm going to read it very quickly. Police are conducting an investigation into the robbery of a taxi driver by 2 gunmen at about 5 a.m. on Saturday, the 16th of March, 2024. According to reports, a taxi driver who had just dropped off a client and was traveling through the Fairhall Glen area when a stone was thrown into the road. The driver stopped and a man armed with a gun appeared and placed it at the driver's head. It is reported, did I read that correctly? Yes. It was reported that the driver was deprived of his mobile phone valued at $700, over $500 in cash, and a phone charger valued at $150 during the unfortunate event. The matter has been reported to the Calico Police Station, which has initiated an investigation into the matter. And we hope for a swift resolution to this incident. That's how the article ends. Now, what is concerning to me with this particular story is from one aspect. So it's unfortunate that the taxi driver has been robbed, right? Because he's plying his trade. He is taking a client back home safely. And it's unfortunate. It's not something, especially robbing somebody if they had earned money from an honest day's pay, an honest job is never a correct thing, right? But I have to also look at this situation from 2 other standpoints. I have to look at this situation as a driver on the road. Let's say at 5 a.m., 3 a.m., 1 a.m., something is thrown at my vehicle or somebody stands in the road. Or even let's say somebody goes under the guise of needing assistance. Let's say I see a woman in distress along the side of the road. Now, what it does, in a sense, is that it takes away from, well, in terms of a person, if a person is by the side of the road, it takes away from that humanity in terms of a person can actually be in distress and you may be willing to come to that person's assistance and you cannot do that because you're not sure if you're going to be set up to be robbed, right? A stone is thrown at your vehicle. I mean, the thing is that you may want to stop to check to see what exactly is happening, right? But now you have to be so cautious about these things because it's almost as if you see somebody in the road or you hear a sudden sound on your vehicle and you cannot stop because it might be a case of you being set up to be robbed. I also have to look at it from another standpoint where, in terms of persons who are in the business of taxi operation. And we've always heard the point of persons complaining about there's no nightlife in SVG, that persons may want to go to events, but unless they have a rental, taximen don't want to be out on the road at those type of hours. And you can understand why. Now, it's unfortunate that persons may not be able to have the nightlife activity that they would want to have in SVG, right? To have that economic boost within our country by way of entertainment, not just for locals, but for our visitors as well. But if you have instances where, let's say, a taxi operator is going to be robbed, and this is one of the other things that we've heard over the years where persons say that van drivers and taxi operators say that they are not operating late on account of not being sure if, number one, they'll be paid for their fares, in terms of persons may just want to jump out of the vehicles and not pay after being transported to wherever the location is, but also that they are not sure if they are going to be robbed. And I think this situation, this particular incident, just put a damper on my spirit in a sense, not just for the taxi operator in terms of him being robbed of his possibly his day's pay, at that point in time, but by the extension of what could happen within our society, should similar incidents happen or continue to happen where people are not able to have a nightlife, they're not able to go out. Taxi drivers do not want to work and operate late because they do not know if they are putting themselves in harm's way to be set up for being robbed, right? So that's just my thoughts with relation to this particular point. And at this time, we are going to take a break. Remember that coming up at 8:05, we will be having an interview with Miss Nicole Martindale, first Vice President of the St. Vincent Teachers Union. So stay tuned and we will be back in a moment. And the time here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is now 8 o'clock, and our time check came to us with the compliments of New Haven Funeral Home.
Death is a fact of life. Even though death is a fact of life, that doesn't make it any easier.